Welcome back, friends, to the Performance Mindset Podcast. I am your host, Amy Calandrino, CEO and founding broker of Beyond Commercial in Orlando, Florida. I've had the pleasure of helping small and medium-sized businesses as well as investors reach their full potential in commercial real estate over the last near decade and a half. Along the way, I've met some very impactful and influential leaders. And the goal of the Performance Mindset Podcast is introduce you to some of these people, their ideas, insights. And if you're wanting to grow, you are tuning into the right show. I'm going to give you the introduction for Cate Agnew. And I like to cheat, make sure I don't miss anything. But she's a distinguished leader in commercial real estate. You own the FRICS, which I learned has something to do with like a European designation. I learned that recently. Correct. And CRE and MAI. And that showcases your expertise and commitment to excellence in real estate. We're going to talk a little bit about those designations throughout the show. Also a power beacon, and we're an organization dedicated to ensuring safety for women in the workplace and supporting the growing success of women in the commercial real estate industry. And we want to make women more money. We want to contribute to women's advocacy issues, and we want to be change makers for innovation in commercial real estate. So without further ado, here's Cate Agnew. So tell us a little about yourself.
Okay, Cate Agnew, born in Philadelphia, which is where somehow I've ended up close to now. I grew up in Virginia. I went to William and Mary. And as an adult, I've moved to San Francisco, Minneapolis, Chicago, Springfield, Massachusetts, New York, Atlanta, Miami, and now back up in New York. And I actually bought a house this time. So
where are you at now? Hold on, I was tracking.
I am now in a town that's about halfway between Philadelphia and New York. It's called Yardley, Pennsylvania. Okay. I live on the river.
Oh, nice.
And I watch the eagles go overhead all the time.
Wow. So did you ever take like the I've Been Everywhere song by Johnny Cash and see if there's any like you're missing? I think like Fargo might be missing.
Yeah, Fargo, Missoula, Mississippi. Yeah, no, I miss those. Yeah. I miss those. But I'm probably not going to go there now.
I love Johnny Cash. I don't know why. It's like I played the music for my kids and they like really resonate. He's very soulful. So yeah. So then like you've been everywhere for over your career, but what got you into commercial real estate?
When I got out of college, I ended up moving to San Francisco with someone that I was with at the time. And I had gotten an undergraduate degree in geology. And I thought I would be in geology. I thought I'd specifically be in the oil industry. Oh. I got out there. The market had crashed in every respect possible. And there I was with my tiny little bachelor's degree, competing with people with 15 years of experience, master's degree. So I had to figure out what I was going to do next. So I sat down and I looked around San Francisco and I thought, what's the big industry here? The answer was real estate. And then I bifurcated residential real estate, commercial real estate. Commercial real estate was analytics. My undergraduate degree, again, geology, you did site work, you came back, you analyzed the results, and you came to a conclusion. So commercial followed that same path, commercial valuation. I got myself hired in a temp job, made myself as useful as I could, and then at the end of it say, hey, looks like you need somebody. How about me? So I fell into it backwards.
I love this. And some people know, but I was originally going to be a meteorologist. So I I wanted to help with the predictive technology related to hurricanes because when I was younger, Hurricane Andrew came through. There were a lot of lives lost. And and so I thought, I want to like do this. I want to go down to Miami and I want to work for the National Hurricane Center and I want to study stuff all day. And so I love when I meet another scientific analytical mind. So I know I look much more like creative and all that kind of stuff. But I'm incredibly analytical. But what I love
both sides of the brain engaged on you.
What's that?
Both sides of the brain are engaged on you.
Oh yeah. I've taken multiple tests and it is really interesting. I'm often not an I or an E, but I'm often like an X. the TJ is always really strong in the Myers-Briggs test. I'm 100% TJ, which is like the very analytical part. And yes, I'm usually like an X in the middle too, which is really, really interesting. So, what I love from that though is like you just made yourself useful, and then you asked for what you wanted.
Yes. Yes. And I think that that's a good lesson for almost anyone in any career, but in particularly women, we're not good at asking for what it is. We just expect if we do a really good job, somebody's going to say, look at you, kid, I'm going to give you a promotion. And learning how to ask for it is something that I'd like all of us to get better at.
Well, it seems to me you've earned 3 different designations. You have found the way to earn the expertise and experience to earn those. Like, can you talk to us about the order in which you obtain those and what they mean? Some people might not even know what MAI means and these other ones.
Okay. All right. MAI was the first one that I got. It stands for Member Appraisal Institute, and it is someone who has gone through a series of tests and classes, including a comprehensive exam, doing a demonstration report, which is like a thesis. And that's a process that can be anywhere 3 to 5 years. And it gives you a qualification that is recognized in the field. It's not legally binding in any way. It's an industry group, but when somebody says MAI, it generally means the people who have done the most in their field to get designated for that. That was one of the earliest ones I got. To me, it was the ante to get in the game. To get the seat at the table, you had to have this so that somebody could look at that at the end of your name and go, okay, hiring her.
Yes.
So that was the first one I got. Many years later, the fellow, FRICS. RICS is the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. It's a London-based organization. It's been around for 150 years. Wow. And it covers everything in what we call, what they call the built environment. So it's from dirt to destruction.
Built environment. Okay.
Built environment. So everything from dirt to destruction, starting with, site environmental studies to site selection. In the middle, the numbers, does it make it work? Construction. And at the end, when you're tearing it down. Some of the women that I've worked with in there was a young woman, Turner and Townsend, who first was working on the Battersea Station conversion in London. And then when she was done with that, came over to Ottawa and is redoing the Parliament building, which is the equivalent of our White House there. I wouldn't have known anything about how to do that, but I spent time with her. So RICS, you start out with an MRICS, so you're a member. And then when you've been there a while, and this is, I think, hilarious, they give you the FRICS, which is Fellow of the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. That says you're at the top of your game, which I think, again, is hilarious because it means that when you get to the top of the game, they make you an honorary guy. You're a fella. So, and that's it. It's given me a tremendous amount of opportunity. I'm very involved in it. On the Americas board and valuation sector lead. As part of doing that, I'm working right now with a group that's going to advise on Basel III and its implications for valuation, part of the International Ethics and Standards Coalition with them. And I'm also a mentor for anyone that's going through the grading process to get to their own designations. And that's really, really important to me. I had good mentors along the way.
Yes.
And as I look back over my career, I realize how much they gave me.
That seems to be a common thread, on this podcast and different conversations. I find that successful people, they didn't really ever make themselves. Like you can never really say, some people say, well, I'm self-made. But really, I find the vast majority of people, you don't arrive where you're at overnight. There's been people that have been generous and have given, to you. And I hear you saying that you're now mentoring others.
Yes, it's what you're supposed to do. And I was very lucky to be the beneficiary of all of that.
Yeah.
The last of the designations, CRE, is counselors of real estate. That is for people who do consulting and counseling. It's an invitation only organization. I was thrilled that I was invited and am now part of a group that includes people who had mentored me prior to that, leaders in the field that I had always looked up to And the fact that they wanted me to sit down with them and enjoy their company and work with them on things, that was really a happy moment for me.
Yeah, I it's a goal of mine. So we'll see. We'll see.
We'll talk.
We'll see. But I've had the opportunity now to do a lot more advisory and consulting work. So it's really cool. I can't talk. None of these projects are usually press release, though. It's not like, I closed this deal at XYZ. It's like, it's very confidential, related to a trust or expert witness work. And unless I'm being hired, then, I can't really talk about like what I'm doing is, so it makes me think about, isn't there a movie called like Fight Club? You can't talk about what happens like Fight Club. So I can't really talk about the things.
First rule of it, can't talk about it. Yes. So I'm very familiar with NDAs and the consulting part.
Oh yeah.
But we'll talk.
Yeah. But, so the designations though, they've kind of built upon each other. How do you think they've shaped your career?
I think the first one gave me the opportunity to have the ante into the game, to take the seat at, I wouldn't say the baby table, but it was needed to get in there. And it gave me the kind of recognition and the name brand that I needed in my field. FRICS gave me a lot of international exposure, as well as confirming the international that I had already. When I worked in public accounting, I was on consulting assignments. I worked on the IPO for Iron Mountain, and I had to value all of their real estate worldwide.
Wow.
I worked on when Burger King went private. I valued every Burger King in the world. But FRICS, I know, FRICS gave me the contacts to be able to go to people comfortably and use the RICS as the currency. It's like, hey, I'm one of you guys. Can you help me out with this? What am I doing wrong? And then as I moved through that organization, again, now I'm able to turn around and hand other people that back. I make sure it's prominent on my LinkedIn profile, because there's been times when people have been trying to get their experience graded and they've run into a bit of a roadblock. And I'm so glad they feel comfortable in just hitting the LinkedIn and say, hey, can you help me?
Yeah.
Because I want to. I want to help you guys.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. My first designation was the CCIM. And up until then, especially having a boutique brokerage, I never worked for a large brokerage. People would say, oh, are you taking a break from showing houses, sweetheart? Or, oh my gosh. And then once I had the CCIM, people were like, oh, whoa.
Right.
She's doing stuff we don't even know about. And it really gave me a lot of credibility and really opened up a lot of doors. And I just couldn't wait. I planned my children around getting my CCIM. I waited until I got my CCIM.
Those exams were tough. I've taken the exams at CCIM. The education is so much superior to any other education I've taken. It's so real world. I love the structure of having people that are actual practitioners and 2 of them in the classroom. What a commitment. It's amazing.
They have a development certification now, which is amazing. Oh, it's amazing. I started taking intro to development, and they have a development matrix, and they have a methodology, just like with everything else they're doing. Just even that has really helped me with like development and, looking at things from the developer point of view, which has changed the way, we can talk about valuations. I can technically value them. I can do a broker opinion of value from a sales perspective, but only you can, give an appraisal. But I think it changed the way that I really looked at things. I looked at it from a different perspective, understanding, all that goes into a development. But we want to talk a little bit, I know, about demystifying valuation. Okay. So since I already brought that up, why don't we go there?
Natural segue.
There we go.
When things went sideways after the last time real estate crash, what happened was a whole bunch of very Byzantine regulations came in on top of appraisers. All of a sudden you have licensing and certification, which are state by state, but then have to follow a national model. You end up having to have an apprenticeship. Imagine using the word apprentice in any other financial services. This is actually codified in law, and you have to have somebody to mentor you to become that. They have to be responsible for all of your work. And who wants to train their next competition? It's hard to find it. So when I say when I talk about demystifying it, what I think is important to understand is that the appraisers have such specific responsibilities and such specific guardrails of what they can do that it would seem to someone who's reading it, all I want to know is the number. Can you just tell me what the number is? And I think I wish my profession had a little bit better voice. I would be better at advocating for themselves, because ultimately we want deals to succeed. We can't predicate our number on you succeeding, but we want you to succeed.
Right.
We're all in this field together, and we wouldn't have gotten into real estate unless we thought it was fun.
Right.
If every day was boring, I wouldn't be in the field anymore.
Right.
So there's a couple different ways that you look at valuation from that standpoint. One of them is the tried and true sales comparison approach. What did this sell for? What did that sell for? Running into such problems with that now, because office in Houston, how am I going to value an office in Houston? Every sale for the last year has been a distress sale. We were involved in one of them. Somebody threw the keys back at us and we said, we don't want it. And they said, that's too bad. So no bank wants to own real estate, by the way. Let's get that message out there. None of us want to own it. So all the sales are squishy, to say the least. So now what are you going to do? Now you have to find out what's going to happen with the income of the property. And that's predictive on a certain level. You have a rent roll. You can make an educated guess about who's going to remain, how long they're going to remain. Are they going to stay when their lease is up? What's the market doing? Can they get cheaper, better space across the street? And now you know they're going to walk away. Or could you throw in a few extra TIs and cut some leasing commissions and have them stay? A lot of times when we're talking to our buildings that are in trouble, we're going down to the tenant level and we're saying, if you want to stay, we, the bank, the money, will make sure the TI dollars are there so you can get what you want. So all those go in a mixing bowl, and we try to predict the next 5, the next 10 years going out. What's the income? What are the expenses? And that's driving us crazy on the expenses. What have you seen going on with insurance?
It's crazy down here in Florida.
Crazy.
So
yes,
I own, and I was on the local news actually, and they came out to my office to meet with me. I have 2 little teeny tiny buildings. It's called the Mills 50 District. It's just outside of downtown Orlando. One's office/residential, one's office. They're 1,300 square feet. I have little boutique companies. This is not my only company, but this is my primary vocation. But it went from $10,000 a year for both properties to $21,000 a year for both properties in a matter of a year. And then, of course, that's right when, when I first bought the properties, it was whatever amount for property taxes. But then, we're looking at about $6,500 and $8,500 for like property taxes. So it went through the roof. And needless to say, I ended up subleasing one of the buildings. One of them was supposed to be one of my companies, and the other one another company. And I was like, I'm sorry, I gotta ask you for 40% more rent because and he's like, I understand. It's it's all over the news. I was like, I just can't lose money, and I know and he had a pretty good deal. And I was like, I'm not looking to make a bunch of money because my property's going to appreciate over time, but I can't lose money. But yeah, expenses. What other expenses have I seen? I mean, construction still hasn't gone down.
No.
It's stabilized, at least in my market. It feels like, but not significantly. And what other expenses am I seeing? Oh goodness, I got letters from the city of Orlando because they need to invest a bunch of money in the stormwater systems for Orlando. My little properties, let's just say one was like $150 a year for stormwater. Within the next few years, it's going to be 3 or 4 times that. And that might be like a monthly charge. But it's, so stormwater is going to go way, way, way up in the city of Orlando, because I guess they need to do a lot of work to that infrastructure. And I understand that. So I'm a property owner. I have to invest in that. But then ultimately it passes along to the business, whether it's my own business and I'm doing owner occupied real estate, or whether it's like my tenant. And then, these same things are affecting my clients. I think, though, what's unique about me being a boutique business owner and then also owning my own I have a unique perspective that I can bring to the people I represent.
Like both sides, and then a third side too.
Yeah, I know.
So you're getting the 360-degree out of that.
No offense to any of the brokers at this big three, but if you don't own commercial real estate or you don't have your own business outside of the subchapter S that you use that has your name, comma, LLC behind it, you wouldn't necessarily like understand it. I mean, you would understand it more too, like an appraisal perspective, because you'll see all the things, but not necessarily do the brokers understand all those things. Yeah.
And to be a broker, you have to have a certain amount of enthusiasm and maybe even a slight suspension of belief, because you've got to believe in what you're doing. Oh. And so I can not necessarily get behind that, but I can really understand that.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a cash flow, and you just expressed everything beautifully. We've got declining rents going on this side, and then increasing expenses. And the next thing you know, you've got a cash flow that's compressed. Whether or not the cash flow was compressed really doesn't play into the next part of this, which was you're taking that rent, you're taking those expenses, and you have a cash flow, discounting it back to present. So the cash flow along the way is your return on your investment, and then a terminal where you're selling it at the end of the holding period is your return of the investment. All of it discounted back to the present, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
I've had people, when I tell them what I do, say, well, how much would that building cost to build? And I have to be very polite and say, well, that's not really how we look at it. But I would say a lot of people do that. And what I think is interesting in this point in the real estate cycle, what the replacement cost is going to be very significant in the decisions from the investment side. If you can buy a building for less than you can replace it for, great, because now you're looking at a yield rate instead of a capitalization rate. So I think that's it's turning, everything's getting turned upside down right now. I've been through it before, but this feels so different.
It is interesting, though. What I'm seeing in my market as far as valuations are concerned is I just saw one come across my desk on one of the ones I'm working on as a buyer. What appraisers think the cap rate should be based on what the lending terms are, and then what things are actually trading at are two different things. Like, it would seem to make sense that things should be, let's just say, an 8 cap, because financing is more like at 7. But we still have stuff going for 5 and 6 in Orlando.
Right. And the appraisers should be considering
it was that. Interesting.
But I think what they're doing now is they're just from what you described, is they're using the mortgage equity formula, which is a way of building up to a cap rate.
That's what they did. Yeah.
Yeah. They should be weighting against what is generally going on in the market. When you have the higher cap rate, what it says is this is how it will always be, and there's no upside potential. This is it forever. That's what a cap rate is. This is what it's going to be forever. If you have a lower cap rate than what the market is showing, it says there's upside potential in this property. Let's take a better look at this one. Somebody's willing to pay a higher price because they believe that income is going to go up over their holding period. That's exciting. It's a little bit scary. I admire people that get involved from the investment side of real estate, because it takes a great deal of courage. And I think my palms will get sweaty knowing the amount of cash that's at stake.
Once you do it a few times, though, it's okay. Yeah, it's, no, I bought my first building in 2019, and I think I was like 5 months pregnant with my first child. And then we sold that 3 years later for a nice amount. And then the 2 buildings we've 1031'd into have worked out to be really, really good plays. Actually, one of my clients, they're 3rd generation commercial real estate investors in Orlando. And they said, with the shifts coming up with interest rates and all that kind of stuff, we found, having invested in Central Florida a long time, you can't go wrong reinvesting in the urban core, because you're going to have a little less, sway or up and down than you would necessarily outside where there tends to be a bit more vacancy or otherwise. And I was like, that's a good point. And plus I want to be back in Orlando. So I feel like I built it. It was like I had like a non-Orlando address. I had like a Maitland address, and it's worked out to be great. So
that's it. That's good perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
Turn everything upside down a little bit.
Yeah, right. So we got to meet, and I didn't bring this up in the introduction. We met through Power Beacons. We're a part of this group. And tell me about when you started to be involved with the Power Beacons and what it's about and what it means to you.
I got involved in Power Beacons probably about 2 years ago, and I was recommended to go in by Nikki Greenberg, who's an extraordinary individual in the real estate field, truly a visionary. And she and I have known each other for probably about 6 years now. She came to me when she was thinking about forming Women in Prop Tech, and I remember having lunch outside with her, and she said, I'm thinking about this. And I practically leapt across the table and said, please, I beg of you, what can I do? So she brought me into it. And I spent the first few meetings very quietly because I don't want to say overpowering, it was powerful.
Right.
To see the people in the room, to see the interaction in the room, to see the idea that we were there for each other, but also for a world outside of it. And the idea of being a beacon. And a power beacon says, we're lighting a way, but we want you to be powerful too. And I think there is a perception that women see power as a zero-sum game. You must give up some of your power so that I can get more. And Power Beacons to me says, we're going to help light the path. We're going to bring you along because together we have more power for better things for ourselves and for you. Not power just for the sake of it, although that could be fun too.
You know, it's interesting thinking about it. I mean, every time I'm with them, I feel like I'm plugging into a power source, but it is just so incredible. The diversity of the perspectives that we have involved, whether in technology or brokerage side. Otherwise, I was introduced, I think, just about 2 years ago myself too, because they had already been around, and then I already knew Marissa Lemshako, and then I got to go to their meetup in Orlando. Not in 2023?
It was last year.
Yeah, it was last year.
No, because my flights didn't work out. I was flying out of Trenton on Frontier, and the flights never got off the ground. By the time I got down there, turn around and fly back.
I think I was brought into the group before that, but that was my first meeting. But no, I think it's a group where I think things maybe used to be like 20 years ago that I like this analogy is like women would get across the moat to the castle and then bring up the drawbridge. Like there's not enough room over here in this castle for anybody else. But now we are of the belief, and we're here on the Performance Mindset Show, but we have this abundance mindset that there's plenty of success to go around for all of us, and let's help us all to be successful and work together.
I think that's amazing. I ran into that when I was in public accounting and consulting. The women who had gotten to a certain level were pulling the ladder up instead of strengthening the ladder. And I found that extremely frustrating. And I didn't understand why that should be, because there seemed to be plenty of abundance for everyone. On the other hand, I got some great experiences there. But that was one of the things I liked so much in the first meetings, all the meetings that I've had at Power Beacons, is the willingness to share and the brilliance, the sheer brilliance of the women in the group and how we all play off each other. Yeah. It's just what you don't know, you know somebody that knows. And you don't just know somebody that knows, you're willing to go to them and say, can you help my friend? Oh, and by the way, it's a consortium.
Yeah. It's a powerful group. And I love that, we come with our wants and our needs, our asks. And then we're also, I don't know when our episode's going to drop for the Performance Mindset podcast, but we just did our big campaign for conference season to help bring awareness to women being maybe more vigilant and some different tactics to utilize to stay safe, and I think we're all in a position that our power beacons is that we are in a position that maybe we aren't a junior at a big 3 firm or otherwise, and we can say what needs to be said for the betterment of all.
Yes. Yes, I've been following that very closely. I volunteered to pay for some of the caps that are on there, but I think by bringing this forward by a group of women who are seasoned, as you said, this may not be something that someone that's junior can bring up. Oh, I'm junior. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to look like a girl. I'm a potential victim. But the fact is that because we are who we are and we've been through the experiences that we have been, we can say truthfully, they happened. They were horrible. We're accomplished in spite of it. But you know what? We're going to make sure it doesn't happen to anybody else. And when that campaign first came out, I don't know any other women's organizations, and I've been in a lot of them, that goes right down to that level of specificity and says what needs to be said. And you might want to cut this out or not, but is a cesspool for all of that kind of behavior. Right down to, please cut this out, openly bringing onto the conference floor.
Yeah. Finn, cut this part out. We will just go beep is notorious.
Never happened.
Beep, and we'll leave that all there. But no, there's, and it needs to change. And I think the people that are going to hate what we're bringing out there are people project their personality onto like other like people, and if people like are afraid of what we're bringing, then they probably have some fear within them of what's going, what's going to go down, and like bringing awareness. And so and I think the power beacons too, I think when I'm out there, I try to also, teach those different things, and, showing people how to share their location on their iPhone or those kinds of different things. So I think it's powerful. So can you believe we've already been talking for like a half hour? So I'm going to ask you a couple different questions. We might have to do a part 2. Yeah.
This is like you said, this is like talking to a friend. This has been thoroughly enjoyable. We can do a part 2. We can do anything you want.
So innovation is crucial in any industry. Can you share an example of an innovative approach that you've used in your work?
I'm really big on process and process management, because to me, that frees up your higher brain power to do things. I'm in the process right now of having built a software program and needing to integrate other parts of it that are going to create an entire process management. I have to answer to a lot of regulators. I have the ECB, I have the Feds, I have the OCC, the State Banking Authority, the SEC, alphabet soup. They all want the same thing. And if I'm having to forward emails to them rather than have a central system that I say, here it is, let's go. Nobody has that right now. Everybody has a piece of that system. Nobody has all of them together. So this is what I want to do. As I said, I'm working with a developer on it. When it's done, my own company is going to take it, but it's also going to be able to go out to the other chief appraisers that are out there so that they can use it too. And I'm really excited about that. It's like a very narrow window, but let me tell you something. When you have the feds going all over your records, you better be sure. And that's been fun, and it's forced me into a discipline, because what I know is all in here, putting it down on paper, having it mapped out, and talking to my peers about this has made, I think, my own practice better. So it's not just the technology, it's the knowledge that it's embedding in me and is bringing out in me that I think would make any part of a technological advance useful to user and creator.
Listening to that, it seems to me, and you talk a little bit about discipline, it sounds to me like you give yourself space to think about, like, okay, this is what we've been doing, but gosh, there has to be like a better way. So like, what does your typical day look like? Do you give yourself space to kind of think about, reflect on what you're working on, or how do you do that?
I spend a great deal of time doing actual writing, handwriting, more than I would say the normal person does, because nobody does it. Nobody does it. Or I type when I can't even read my own handwriting in it. Because I find that sometimes my pen starts writing itself, and a thought that I've begun on one vector, I end up in another vector. And then I wait a couple of days and I read it again. And it could be utter nonsense, but I only remember the brilliant ones. So it helps me map things out. And the other thing I do is literal drawing. If I do this, then it goes to here and it goes to here. And then again, I'll let it steep for a day or two and think, was that a great idea? Or was I just thinking it was a great idea because I was on a 5 a.m. train?
Yeah. Yeah, I keep different composition books in my office, and I make notes as I go through, and then I can kind of paperclip it, and I can go back, and I like to highlight. I think depending on how your brain works, but for me, and my husband's like, "Oh, you got to eventually give up paper," and I'm like, "I just don't think you understand. I have to utilize the paper. It makes me like think and remember different things." Yeah.
It connects all the pieces in my brain. I have the same thing too. My husband's wonderfully buys me the moleskin books, and often will get them my initials put in them. And I have one that's a pink one for my aspirations for board service. And periodically I'll go through it and put together a list at the end of those pages of, okay, this is what I learned from this. This is what I need to do. And then I'll use that nice little elastic strap, bring that over and start again. But don't ever take that out of my hands. And then we got a different book for technology initiatives and a different one for some of the other things that I'm working on. But I never want to give up the paper.
Well, I've gone back before, and I've found old notebooks where I said, oh, these were my 2020 like goals to become 40 under 40 or different things. And I'm like, oh, I did that. Oh, I did that. Oh, that's great. Like, and
Is that satisfying?
Yeah, I have some 2025 goals. Like, we have like Leadership Orlando here. I've been to Leadership Winter Park, which is right outside of Orlando. Winter Park has really low vacancy. We're talking less than 3% when it comes to office.
Wow.
That's
that. Yeah. That's actually unheard of in any market I've heard of.
It's like musical chairs. One person moves out, like there's another person in. Like, yeah, it's because there's.
I guess the supply is the supply limited because of regulation in the area, zoning and things like that.
Yeah. But we've been working on that. A group of very committed. We just had a new commissioner elected by 32 votes. That's a bit more. Is going to listen to people outside of those that just want to put like a glass dome over the city. So I think there needs to be like reasoned development within the city. So, because otherwise, yeah,
you can end up suffocating yourself.
Yeah. So
suffocating the growth.
Well, is there anything, I know we thought we were going to talk about lots of different things, but is there anything that we didn't get to talk about that you want to talk about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I want more women in this field.
Yes.
Bureau of Labor Statistics looks at 400 different professions. Appraisal is dead last in diversity by any measure.
Appraisal is dead last.
Dead last.
Wow.
97% white. It is 76% male. So I want the regulations changed on this because I see them as disadvantage to women. One of them is a mandate for a college degree to get the highest level. Now, I have a college degree, I have higher education. I value it. My family values it. But on the other hand, if you're a woman who maybe got married in your early 20s and you've had a number of kids, you might not have the college degree. You're plenty smart. Yeah. By the time you get through the training program that you have to do to get your licensing, again, 300 hours of classes. You have to work under someone else signing your work, so you have an apprenticeship. You have a comprehensive exam that would just turn your socks out. You have a master's degree in appraisal, even if you don't have an undergraduate degree. I want that changed, and I know it can change. Right now, we have 37% of the military that is Black women. That's an untapped field of incredible talent. Women who have served the country, who have certain standards that they go by. Why can't that be an alternative to a college degree? Why can't other things be an alternative to college degree? It was that way before the heap of regulations came down on us. It didn't make valuation any better.
Right. You still have your methodologies that you have to follow.
Right. I'm leading an initiative on that with the U.S. military, with the Appraisal Foundation, and I'm not going to stop until the federal law changes that then goes down to state to bring more diversity into this field. I moved everywhere. I told you that. Oftentimes people have to move different places and they can't get a job in their career that they have already. I've taken this satchel of my qualifications as an appraiser and I've moved everywhere. And I've had a ball doing it.
Right.
And I want that for other people, women in particular. So that's what I want to talk about.
You know, it's so cool that you brought this up because I have not spoken about this on my podcast before. But like I told you, I planned my family around getting my CCIM. If I knew, because it needed to be I forgot, it had to be within like a 5-year window that I had to have my portfolio. And I knew, and I'm not going to say that they're trying to be discriminatory, but if it walks like a duck and it looks like a duck, it could be maybe, right? And I love my CCIM people. I love them. But if it wasn't that way, like I would have been like, oh, okay, you know, I've gotten some deals under my belt. Let me let me have a 2 to 3 year pause and like start to pick things back up again. And let's consider this. But the fact that all of a sudden then it's not going to be good and we can't consider that, I feel like can be a disadvantage. I mean, otherwise, I think that it's very hard. You're like forcing mothers not to mother, like, or make decisions. But yeah, I got my CCIM in October 2018. I had my first child in November 2019. So literally.
Okay, so you're amazing on all of those levels because you did that, but you should not have had to plan a family.
Right, no, I shouldn't have.
And I love the CCIM organization. I don't have enough good to say about it, but those regulations were set up for a different time. And just because they're codified doesn't mean they have to be forever. So go change them, please.
Yes.
You've already done yours, but somebody else, let's strengthen the ladder for her to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially, okay, I wish, like, if I was I'm not bashing the big three, y'all. I am not. But here I am at my like teeny. I did not have people to share deals with. I mean, we don't have large deals where we can stack it 5 deep. And then while I'm having the baby, sit there and like still have my name on some deals. Right. There would it's been this way. I'm the chief rainmaker. And I bring home the bacon. Like, it's me. And people, Sandy on my team, who's been with me for 6 years. Yes, her phone rings. She's gotten to that point, and they don't just call her. But back then, if you were calling Beyond Commercial, it was because you heard of Amy Calandrino and you wanted to hire.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. And it occurs to me that I'll start to put some more intentionality into that. And, because, I think it would be more fair. And especially women are waiting longer to get married. And let's just say you're waiting to have children until you get married, and then you're getting your career started. And then some women don't have I felt pretty confident, like waiting a little bit, but maybe you can't. And like, you're like, I gotta go for this. Like, right. So that was funny. I make a joke of it now, but it's actually probably not very funny that
you're handling it in good humor, but look what you did. I mean, you controlled your own fertility because an organization set a regulation. And I'm sure you have a lovely family, but that makes me kind of sad. Because I feel like you almost missed a year and a half that you could have had that joy in your hands.
Right.
But you did it. You did it, and look at you now. But you should never have to make that choice.
Right. I think it's fair, and I'm glad you decided to bring that up today, because I'm like, it's something I've mentioned. I've been to governance meetings and different things, and I've said things to different influential people, but I haven't said it in the manner in which, things need to be said. And so maybe somebody who's involved listens, like, know that we're not going to back down until this happens. So, okay. All right. I'm going to make some more noise about this. So
good.
And you in the appraisal field, I think that some very bright minds out there that, and college, when I went to college, it was much more affordable. And,
Yes.
I graduated 20 years ago. So I'm 40 now. I just turned 40. But like, I remember when I graduated in 2007, a per credit hour at Rollins was like $625. The next semester, it went up to $1,200. And I don't even know how much it is for, not per class. I don't even know what it is now, but I know it's like astronomical, like what it is. And I work full time, went to school full time to get myself through college and pay it off as I went along. But that's because I think I could actually do that along with scholarships. Not everybody's in that position and wants to assume that much debt. So
that's a really good point that I hadn't put together until you connected those, is that in addition to all the other barriers there are to women getting college degrees, the sheer money of it.
Yeah.
And, again, that goes back to women who are from, and there's statistics about this, women from minority families have a lower ability to go to school at all, let alone get a higher degree.
Yeah.
And education should be free. I love the community college system. I love that it exists and it's so deep and you're able to do it, but not everybody can drive 20 miles at night to go to a class at night. Yeah. So I love that you balanced all these things, but I'm sad that you had to balance all these things. It should all have been yours.
I mean, I learned a lot from these challenging, situations, that's for sure. But I think that, if you don't have quite the mental fortitude that I have, like you can just keep go. I mean, it can be hard, like, and challenging to do that. And I'm not saying by any means that we're trying. We're just saying, is there something that can be substituted that shows just as much effort and just as much passion and that just as much drive? Like, how can we recalibrate things and consider things?
That's the great word, recalibrate. You're not asking people to drop their standards.
No,
you're asking them to recalibrate them. Yeah, I think that's great. I like that you went to college full time, that you were working full time. I did that too when I was chief appraiser at U.S. Bank. I got my master's degree at the University of Minnesota, and during our orientation, they said it usually takes between 5 and 7 years if you're going at night. And I thought, okay, we'll see about that. So 2.5 years. I did it in 2.5 years. And there were some nights when I was getting out of class and it was 20 degrees below zero. And I would get in my car and my car would still be 20 degrees below zero because it never got warm enough to throw off heat. So for a half an hour. And I just did it. But if I look back and think about it, I thought I couldn't feel my toes for months on end.
Oh my goodness. That's incredible. Yeah. My mom, so I had my first business at 13. My parents probably shouldn't have let me do this, but they allowed me to take the public bus. And I would go clean people's houses and I worked full time, but I never wanted to be like an imposition to my parents. I guess that should have been what they did do some chauffeuring of me, but I'd figure out the bus map and what time do I need to be at this house. And I'd figure out how to get there. And I started working full time when I was 13. So, and then I graduated with no college debt, but I know I'm weird.
Well, think of all the experience you got in mapping that benefits you now in real estate.
That is interesting. I do know every single side road. I don't have to use the GPS too much, but anyways, oh my goodness. Well, I'm so glad we brought that up. I think we'll need to connect more, and that could be, who even knows, that could be another Power Beacon initiative, because that's impactful in the industry across a multitude of different things. So yeah. How do people get a hold of you? What's the easiest way? LinkedIn, email?
LinkedIn is the easiest way to get a hold of me. I'm LinkedIn/in/CAAGNEW, Cate Agnew. I think I'm the only Cate Agnew on LinkedIn. I think my most viewed profile is an honor to my mom from a few years ago that I put in there. She raised 5 kids. She went to college and got her undergraduate degree when she was 46 and a master's in mathematics when she was 54. And she never met a barrier that she couldn't overrun. So she could have ruled the world if she were one generation down, but she ruled her own world. So
I'm so glad you had that. Yeah, that inspirational figure. So I think we all that are successful, like we talked about, end up having somebody that kind of helps pull you forward. So
yes.
Hey.
This has been a ball.
Yeah. So, well, let me, for our audience, I'm going to close it up. I'm going to say thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. Let's all continue to go to beyond and strengthening that performance mindset. This is Amy Calandrino signing off.